I'm here on Spring Mountain in Napa Valley. This is one of my favorite AVAs and incredible area for wine growing in Napa Valley. I have these four gentlemen who've decided to spend their morning talking to me, which is kind of crazy, but I appreciate their time. And I'm going to have them just identify themselves. So Sheldon, if you'd start.
Sheldon Richards, Paloma Vineyard.
Stu Smith, Smith-Madrone Winery.
Justin Mooday, Aadland-Moody Vineyards.
Wesley Steffens, Vineyard 7 and 8.
Great, thanks very much. This is a lot of fun to have you all in the same room, and we'll try and make this fairly quick because obviously you have other things to do. But as I've mentioned in the past, whenever I do these events, I always talk about what makes a specific area special. And in my mind, again, Spring Mountain is very special. But I'm going to start with you, Wes. Tell me about what your feelings are about that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're going to get into what makes wine unique up here, but I think one of the really special, unique things about Spring Mountain is it's such a small area of family wineries uniquely focused on making great wines in a special place.
Family being a big key word.
Yeah, for sure.
I fell in love with Spring Mountain. Actually, I fell in love with wine on Spring Mountain 30 years ago on a trip out here, and was able to become the new kid on the block here. But it's also the people here. They've all been incredibly inviting to us. It's been amazing. Stu?
So what's unique about this area? I think it's a combination of things. It's the soil. It's a volcanic soil. The exposure to the sunlight is important. During the growing season, the valley floor is socked in with fog, and the sun is bouncing off the fog and up into us, here on the mountain. And so it's the soil, the climate, it's obviously the people. I think we all agree on that. But it's just a little bit different from anywhere else in the valley. And everything we do up here is hard. Nothing's easy.
Mm. You're on a mountain. It's kind of how that works. I'm just curious. Yep, we got fog behind us. Sheldon.
These guys have summarized it pretty well. Certainly terroir, soil, and climate are unique. And when you talk about the people, these are independent mountain men and women. We work really hard to do what we do because of the conditions we work under. But if you have a problem in a vineyard or winery, there's not a person on this mountain that wouldn't offer you a hand, a tool, or an idea to help you. So it's a great sense of community.
And it's a lot of fun to drive up here too, by the way. I truly enjoyed that ride. I'm going to go down the line one more time too, and just the year you started operation up here.
1983.
1971.
2022.
99.
Wow. So a kind of a good spectrum of wineries. Stu, we've talked to you many, many times in the past, and you're not only a veteran on the mountain, but of course you started at a very different time in terms of wine. This was the tasting of Paris, and your challenges had to be just immense because you had to clear space, as I recall, to be able to build your vineyards, and there were some old vineyards that existed. Tell me about that.
Well, there were remnants of an old vineyard. There were little redwood grape stakes that were maybe 2.5 feet tall that had been fire burned at the base so that they wouldn't rot out too quickly. And as the vineyards, we have to assume this, as the vineyard was dying from phylloxera, the birds came in, sat on the stake. They do what birds are supposed to do, which is disperse seeds around, and the forest regrew. And so when I first walked this in the fall of 1970, it was a dense forest. And yet there were Douglas fir trees that were 18 to 24 inches in diameter. And you could almost see the rows and the cross rows where the vineyard had been. And then when we closed on it and started logging it to deal with the forest, we had to sell the logs. And then we picked up rocks and roots, and my brother joined me in 72 or 3, and we continued to pick up rocks, and we continued to pick up roots and all of that stuff. And We were going to build the winery out of rocks, and after doing all the rock pickup, we said, that's it, we're done. We're never touching those things again.
No more rocks.
No more rocks.
Yeah. I imagine you still pick them up from time to time.
Oh, we still do. We still have rocks that are so big that our crawler can hardly push them.
Wow, that's crazy. Very different on top of a mountain. Sheldon, for you, you came about 10 years after Stu. Did you guys get to know each other right away? Was this kind of like, help me out a little bit about just understanding what's going on up here?
Yes, we knew each other. It was my parents in the beginning, so I can't speak for them, but I know Stu knew them. And same thing, ours is all forest, so we had to clear and terrace 10 acres in '85 and then 5 more acres in '87. And then my mother farmed it by herself for the first 10 years.
That's crazy.
Which is kind of remarkable.
Yeah, I'd say. She's quite a woman.
Yep.
Yeah. Justin?
Well, we found this property in '22 and bought it in the fall of '22. And it was an old Behringer property, and it's got terraced, stone-lined vineyards. As you can imagine, it was a bit of a wreck. The fence posts were all burnt down, and you had an old foundation and a dilapidated pool left over from the fire. And you kind of looked at it, and my wife looked at it, and she's like, "Can we just get back to Bottle Rock?" And I was just like, and that's what we were here for. And I remember I was just I'm standing, where the patio of our house is now, and I was like, you could see the vision of it, like and the vineyard. Interesting. I had the third bonded winery in the state of Nebraska in 2000. Planted the grapes after my trip out here in '95. So I thought that this vineyard would come to a different light without all the trees. Originally it was tree lined, and now there's no trees, and it's been an incredible process.
I'll bet. Again, being the new guy on the block or on the mountaintop, what was that like for you to meet your fellow vintners?
Well, we were at this charity auction thing, and I had gone over to the Boy Scout hamburger stand, and is where I met Stu, because I was looking at it and I was like, Boy Scout troop number 1? I mean, that can't be. I was like, I was 212 growing up, and he was the first one that I met, and I said that I'd got this property. He goes, "Oh, you drive that red truck," and I was like, "That's me." I didn't know at the time. He drove by the property every day, multiple times, sometimes.
Multiple times. Yes.
Was it weird at first, especially with these veterans here, having been up here for such a long time, to kind of just try to fit in?
I don't think it was weird. The valley is full of, people that move here to chase a wine dream, or whatever that is. I was the 5th generation to grow up on our cattle and wheat ranch in western Nebraska, and what draws me to the mountain is the farming, is the grapes and where the wine is actually made. So I actually didn't think that I wouldn't fit in, because the people on the mountain are the same, they've been growing grapes for, 50 years, but, it's all I've known as agriculture.
Yeah, farmers. Wes, you fall in between, so what was your experience?
Well, we came to the mountain in '99. My father, his professional background, his whole life has been in finance. Like Justin was saying, coming out to Napa Valley to follow a wine dream. And I had just finished undergrad with an economics degree, realized pretty quickly that I had zero interest in following my father and brother into the world of Wall Street. Followed a passion of food, went to culinary school. So it was about the same time as my parents bought this property. I was going to culinary school, which was what originally brought me to Napa Valley. So I think my initial reaction coming out here, because the facility that we're in right now wasn't here at the time. The vineyard was planted. A lot of the fruit on the property was under contract. So it wasn't as if we were coming to a full-fledged business to take over. my thought was maybe there's an opportunity to do some sort of food program. So that was just sort of my thought out of school. So it wasn't until a friend of mine who was a winemaker posed a question to me about getting involved in winemaking and learning. So I went and did it on my own for about 4 years before coming up here. And my father had a partner in the beginning, and I finally convinced my dad that for this place to be really truly successful, we need to do this on our own. We need to do this as a family. And so I convinced him in 2007 to let me take control of the business and start putting our team together. And here we are in 2026. We've tripped and stumbled along the way, but we're still here. So.
Who hasn't?
Exactly.
Yeah. Another go down the line there, and I'll start with you, Wes. Acreage you're farming.
So it's a 40-acre property total, of which just under 20 acres are farmed for grapes.
17 acres total, just touch over 9 acres in plant.
There's 150 plus acres of property, most of it's watershed, and 38 and a half acres of vineyard.
17 acres of land, 15 in vines.
Mountain farming is completely different, obviously, than valley floor. There's so many different types of farming in general. I'm going to start with you, Stu. Other than fires and maybe critters, what is it that you're dealing with the most? Oh, should I say other than county? I'll take that out, sorry.
There's really hardly anything left once you take fire and Napa County out of the equation, because then it's beauty. Let me say one other thing too, which I should have maybe said in the beginning. What got me here on the mountain was that I believed then, as I believe now, that you can only make the best wines from the best grapes. And as Virgil said in 43 BC, Bacchus amat colis, Bacchus loves the hills. And I wanted to come and try to make the very best wine humanly possible, which is why I picked coming to the mountains. And again, it was to get the grapes. We're all here on the mountain because we want to grow great grapes. And I think that's the advantage over growing grapes down on the valley floor, which is where you've got this deep soil and when we first started, you could hear all the neighbors when they were cultivating their vineyards, because the disc blades would slam against a rock and it'd go cling, and it could be heard all across the top of the mountain here. And there's a lot of little things like that drive you up here and give you pleasure. And those are one of the things that give you pleasure. And I'll just finish by saying one of the things that's consuming me now is the forest, is trying to get the forest back into a forested condition after the 2020 glass fire. And that's my main motivation at the moment now.
Sheldon, anything you want to add to that?
If you take out politics out of it, we're kind of hit a wall because I'm doing battle with the county.
And we talked about that, was it 2 years ago I was talking to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Justin, again, being new to this.
Yeah, I don't know if there's been, it's interesting is we looked at this place in western Nebraska, water is gold. And one of the things he told me when we got up here, he goes, well, you better make sure that you got some water, do you have an adequate well and things like that. And it turned out that the property did, and but we don't really have to use it that much. It's kind of Spring Mountain for a reason. For 2.5 years, we've been digging a hole in Spring Mountain to build a cave in, and I told Stu this a few weeks ago. I was like, as a farmer, I would never say this, but I was really praying for a drouthy spring just to finish this damn cave up. But we're there, and being a farmer, like every drop of rain that hits us is gold to us.
Yeah. I want to come back to your background in a minute, but Wes, any more thoughts on that?
Yeah, as we're sitting here in this room, we look behind us to the completely fog-covered mountaintop, this is a unique place. I mean, it's often that we drive up, you break through the fog level, you're staring down at this blanket of this ocean of fog on the valley floor while it's beautiful sun up here. And then in the afternoon, you see that fog layer coming back from the coast, rolling in over the hills. Truly unique place to grow just phenomenal grapes. And as all the panelists said today, it's hard, but hard is what makes it great.